Hey guys, what's up? It's a Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies, TV shows, and animes, and yay! It's the 8th year anniversary of this YouTube channel. What the hell? I'm old! So yeah, today is the 8th year since I have been making YouTube videos, and April has been, as you can expect, very busy for me. Tons of shit happened and I was really busy editing this, making that, doing this, doing that, homework, assignment, literally everything. So I really tried my best to watch as many films as possible, but most of the films I'm going to mention in this video I also nearly fell asleep to, not because all of them are boring, but because I was just really tired. So anyways, to start off, I watched a Minecraft movie at the theaters at Regal, LA. I didn't fall asleep to this one. Now, this movie is awful, but also ironically very funny. The lighting of every scene is hilariously bad. The movie moves at such a high pace. It was absolutely crazy. I feel like I was on acid throughout the whole thing, and it made total sense when I found out that 20 people wrote the freaking script. I loved the Technoblade tribute, and I did not notice Jeb at all. I didn't mention this in the review, I found out after the fact, and I only wish that I was at a bigger and more packed audience to experience the chicken jockey. 4 out of 10. Then I watched Sparrow by Johnny To. This is a very interesting crime thriller that also feels like a very silly rom-com. The film has a lot to say about Hong Kong and China's relationship post-1997. In many ways, this is also a city symphony that showcases a lot of architecture in Hong Kong, perhaps a nostalgia maybe. The one gripe I have is that I didn't like the music at all. I think the music was a bit obnoxious, but the final pickpocketing sequence is frickin' majestic. 7 out of 10. Then I watched Vive sa vie by Jean-Luc Godard. I'm sorry if I mispronounce any of that. Yeah, it's time for me to watch another Godard, I guess, given that I'm about to go to France next month very soon. And out of the 3 Godard films I've seen, this is unfortunately my least favorite. I really admire the visual language and the editing and the formal play, the dolly work, filming behind the head, etc, etc, etc. The narrative breakdown of the 12 sections of the film, the chapterization, the compartmentalization of the theatrical format is all very interesting about the language of cinema. But let's be honest here, I was really uninterested in the story throughout the entire film, and I nearly fell asleep like many times. I have to admit, Anna Karina is amazing, and again, I love some of the editing choices and everything, but unfortunately, I don't think Godard is clicking for me that much. 7 out of 10, light 7. So after that, I went to Cams Fest, an annual film festival inside USC for people who study film studies like me, and I premiered my film, The World Is Not Enough. It was pretty well received, and I won an award for it. People really loved it, shook my hand, I was blessed, and I feel great. So after that, I watched Lynn Ramsey's Ratcatcher, and this is very interesting. It's a British social realist film. It's slice of life, but it's also about poverty and the poor social conditions of Glasgow, Scotland. I love films that heavily involve child acting. When I was watching this, I was immediately reminded of The 400 Blows, The Florida Project, Where's the Friend's House, and literally every Koreeda film there is. It's very slice of life, but it also manages to keep me hooked throughout the entire film because each character just feels so real. 8 out of 10. Following that, I watched The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On by Hara Kazuo. This is a 1987 documentary made in Japan about a retired veteran soldier who experienced the horrors of war, especially wars waged by Japan, and trying to investigate the death of a couple of privates. I and my friend were 45 minutes late to the screening, but the cool thing is that we got to see a Q&A between documentary legend Errol Morris and the filmmaker himself, Hara Kazuo. And I returned home later that night to rewatch the first 30, not rewatch, I haven't even seen it, to watch the first 32 minutes because I was missing that. This is a really fascinating documentary that is very funny and very crazy, but also very tragic, especially with how the film interrogates Japan's cruel history of war crimes and fascist imperialism. How the fuck did Emperor Hirohito reign until 1989, considering that in the 1930s up until 45, he was still committing war crimes. 9 out of 10. Lots to think about. Then, immediately the next morning, I left my apartment, traveled all the way to Santa Monica, and watched Koyaanisqatsi on 35mm at the Aero Theater. At that point, I was a bit burnt out from watching too many films, so this film didn't really blow my mind the way I thought it would. I love that this film highlights human technological advancement and modernity without using a single word. Yes, it is a documentary, and yes, not a single word is spoken in this film. And in a lot of ways, this reminds me of Man with a Movie Camera, but for a more updated era, and the music by Philip Glass is absolutely bonkers. Also feels kind of didactic. Maybe I've just seen too many films exploring modernity, but it's still a really well-made film, strong 8 out of 10. Then I watched Chan is Missing by Wayne Wong. Watched it for my class about race, class, and gender in American cinema. I love how raw, rusty, and rough around the edges this film is, and I'm gonna quote my Letterboxd review. Throughout this endless and futile search of a guy named Chan Hong, they explored his identity the way they explore the Chinese-American identity, forever confused, sandwiched between cultures, perpetually stuck between a duality. I just really admire what Wayne Wong did, especially given that this film was made in the early 1980s, it's very indie, and he has a lot to say about the Chinese-American experience. 8 out of 10. Then, to prep for Cannes, I watched The Darjeeling Limited, and unfortunately this is my least favorite Wes Anderson film I've seen so far. I just wasn't that invested in the story at all. This brother trip thing is just not that interesting for me. I was also falling asleep during the film, and I had to rewind and catch the bits I fell asleep to. There's some weird Indian exotification in this film, this passport bro thing going on, especially with Jason Schwartzman's character sort of hooking up with this Indian train stewardess. The awkward dialogue just doesn't match with the natural heartfelt moments at all. A little bit later in Wes Anderson's career, the awkward dialogue is paired with more stylized and rigid environments, and that felt way better. Just didn't really click for me. 7 out of 10. There's still a lot of charm, so still a 7. Finally, I finished watching Severance Season 1, and this is a lot of fun. The first few episodes feel kind of repetitive and slow, and I think TV shows used to bring a different flavor to each new episode, but Severance falls in line with newer TV. But the finale of the season is amazing. I also love how the story followed through and paid off, and the cinematography is really good. When you're tasked to photograph an office for 9 hours, I think it can result in pretty boring stuff, but I think the DP and PD and everyone else in the crew pretty much visualized it in a way that makes it look interesting. 7 out of 10. So yeah, these are the movies and TV shows I watched in the last few weeks or so. Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching. I gotta watch more.